We've been talking a lot on the internet. She is a athlete performance coach. She's a podcaster. She's an author. She's the total package. Please welcome to the show. Very excited for the first time, hopefully many times. Kelsi Sheren, how are you?
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Well, we're honored to have you on. Kelsi, for those who may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Kelsi Sheren. I'm a Canadian combat veteran. I'm an author, performance coach for professional athletes. I work in the psychedelic space and the mental health overall space. I own a company called Brass and Unity, where we take 20% of our proceeds and donate them to veteran and first responder organizations all across the globe, selling our bullet jewelry products that we've been doing since 2016. And most importantly now, I work to elevate athletes, get them to the next level, make them go from good to great. And I work with CEOs and transitioning veterans out of service. And now I write a Substack, write books, and have a podcast called the Kelsi Sheren Perspective, where we talk about all the things going on with the world and how we can make it better.
You're focused and you have a kid on top of that. So you're crushing it. Very busy, very busy. We don't hear a lot about the Canadian military a lot. Like it's very
crazy.
Interesting. Yeah, we don't. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm just an arrogant American, and I'll accept that. But like when I go to Toronto, I know Canadians have a certain view of Toronto, kind of
that
like
sucks.
Yeah, well, you guys see Toronto the way America sees Los Angeles, right? You're like, oh, we hate that place. But when I go there, I just see a place that like what humanity is possible, what's possible with humanity if you're not spending 50 cents of every dollar on the military industrial complex. I'm sure it's super woke and everything, but I just love it over there.
Well, I mean, I would tend to agree, except the government takes 42% of our income as taxes. So we don't actually have the money to pay the military because we send it to everywhere but Canada, including the another 1.5 billion they're sending to Ukraine, according to them this week.
And you guys thought, maybe you guys didn't think this, but maybe I thought it, that once Trudeau is out, things might calm down, but it seems like it's gotten even crazier.
Well, the thing about Trudeau is, he bought it's CSIS, which is our FBI, came out, and I said this on Jordan Peterson in 2015. They put we did not heed the warning. We've been bought and sold, but to the CCP a long time ago. We had Chinese police stations in Vancouver and Toronto taking Chinese dissidents back who were speaking negatively against the Chinese government. And the Trudeau Foundation, this has been an ongoing plan since his dad was in the 70s in his own foundation. And then once that happened, is you had Mark Carney, who is he's not a leader. He's not anything. He's just a person in a suit. But he had been running Trudeau's policies the entire time Trudeau was in government. So we just got another version of Trudeau. The only difference is a bunch of people stepped down during Trudeau so that they couldn't be fired and charged for some of the criminal behavior they were inciting themselves into. But then got rehired by Mark Carney's cabinet. And now you are seeing one of the most uneducated, inept, and absolutely out of control governments we've had since Canada's inception.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the United States who want to get rid of the electoral system we have here. They don't like it. They don't like that, states like Wyoming, where not a lot of people live compared to like New York or LA, I'm in California. But they have a say in our policies. And I'm like, well, if you want to see the system that doesn't have that, it's Canada, where basically Ontario, right, decides who's president before the West even gets a chance to vote.
Yeah, let me correct you. We call it Onterrible for a reason, and it is now the Middle East. And so if you go to Toronto, you go to Brampton, you go to Kitchener, you go to Markham. I'm from Onterrible, by the way. I don't live there. I choose not to go there. I don't participate there. And what I'll tell you is that it is no longer even Onterrible. It is now what we would call India, Pakistan, Iraq, Afghanistan, or anywhere else. And we have AK-47s in the streets. We have people blocking off traffic. We have the Muslim Brotherhood there. We have the Khalistanis there. We're the largest place in North America that harbors terrorists, and they flow through our border right down to yours, and everybody's worried about the South. And like I just stated to the ladies on Her Take podcast this week with Jillian Michaels and them, was that, everyone's worried about Mexico and the fentanyl crisis, but no one's checking the ports and what's coming in Canada and flowing down. So your hat's on fire, and everybody's saying, yeah, but Canada's so great. Canada has taken over 800,000 Indian, Pakistanis, and immigrants in Q1 and 2 of this year. And our entire global system that we have built, our socialized healthcare, all of it is not only crumbling at its feet, it is quite literally, you can't go. There are no go places in Canada. One of them is 5 minutes from me now, and you don't go there. You absolutely don't go there unless you're wearing a niqab, a burqa, or you're with a man, because it's not safe any longer.
Ooh.
So I got in a heated debate on one of my other shows, Conspiracy Social Club, with my co-host Dylan Wren, and we were discussing what he didn't know the name of it is, but it's basically replacement theory, right? It's like
Yes.
what the UN
Yeah.
is, and it's purposeful. It's done. It's done for chaos. See, people can't understand. They have this kind of crazy belief in these people they've never met. Ever they transfer their love of their parents, their love of their neighbors, their love of everything onto people they don't know, which is like what the progressive left has done with Hillary Clinton. She's my grandma, she's my mom, she's my aunt. She would never do these horrible things to children. She would never have
Totally.
80 friends suicide themselves. That's just bad luck, right? That's how they
Totally.
see it. But they don't understand that everything is data. It's always been data from the moment you're a baby. They're collecting data on you. We had the GATE program. We talked about it forever here. And they're just trying to find out who's a psychopath, who's incredibly smart, who would slit their own mother's throat to achieve their goal. And they just, with an invisible hand, kind of push them in these directions. And we'd even get into Pornhub. Like Pornhub's whole thing is like, let's put out all this free pornography. Okay, we'll put out this stuff. And we're gonna see who comments on what, and then we'll hey, dude, this guy just watched this video where the girl's questionable age. Data shows he's thinking about getting into politics. Let's just kind of push him into it, and then we position these people, and then we blackmail them, and then they're totally caught. Like that is how deep it goes. So. Trudeau, you want to get a microscope, just a tiny, and not microscope, but a tiny picture of Trudeau. It's when he's talking about his brother died. The gleeful look on his face is so haunting, dude.
He's a toxic person. He's a dangerous human being. And so is Mark Carney. He's just as dangerous as Trudeau, if not worse, because of his connections outside of the country. The fact that he hasn't lived in Canada in 10 years, he can't speak French, which is supposed to be our second national language, although it probably should be Mandarin, Cantonese, Punjabi, Pakistani, or Arabic. But the point is that I'm dead. I'm dead. Can I swear on this show?
You can say whatever you want. He's going to have to clean it up, so I don't care.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I don't know how YouTube works, and I don't know what the 8 minutes in, but he's a fucking nightmare, and he's literally the reason why the country is crumbling. And so when you put people who have no lived experience and real understanding into places of power, i.e. firebombing this guy in that no one's really heard much of, but now all of a sudden he's running an entire nation. And you take a look at things like spending. He was running the part of the banking system in the UK, and this man is supposed to be the economic genius. This guy couldn't produce a single budget for the country, and then went on holiday in the summer and was like, you know what, while you guys are on holiday, let's not even vote about it. Let's give another 1.5 billion to Ukraine when I meet privately with Zelensky, because I'm not actually welcome at the G7 summit with all of the other actual real leaders. And instead, in a photo, Trump replaced him with a tree. So it tells you what they really think of Canada. And to be honest, wouldn't you think that of Canada? Because that's how I think of Canada, and I'm a born and raised Canadian.
It's very interesting because I was born in, Western New York, just outside the border of Canada. I always looked at Canada as wonderful Care Bears. They're just...
We used to be.
You just really are Care Bears, dude. Like, I don't know anybody who hates Canada except for Canadians, apparently. But
Yes.
But once you kind of get into this lulled sense of just happiness and all that stuff, that's where screws start to get turned. Keys, like everything starts to turn because you're really comfortable, and even in America, I've said this before, there's never going to be an uprise as long as you have fat homeless people with iPhones. Like that's how comfortable we are that you can not have a job, not work, and still be fat and still be able to have an Instagram account. I mean, that's comfort right there.
Well, it's complacency kills, Sam. This is like an ongoing thing we've seen now for a long, long time. Complacency kills. And when you do what this government has been doing to the Canadians now for like the past 10, 15 years, I remember voting when I was in Afghanistan for a conservative for the first time in my life. I joined at 18. It was my first time I could vote. And I remember when I was serving with them thinking to myself, well, they're going to put funding into our weaponry. They're going to put funding into the veterans. They're going to put funding into like mental health support. And then he got in, we voted in a conservative, and the country finally felt like for a second it was going to turn around. And I'm always very clear to say, like, I'm a pretty centrist human for the most part. And I have been just forced and driven to what would be considered a conservative in Canada now, because everything's in the upside down. Canada isn't what it used to be. So when I leave the country, which I try to leave a minimum of once a month, I live on the border of America. I go walk alongside freedom every day, but I cannot touch it. So, the thing that I'm looking for as a Canadian is just not taking 42% of my entire income and putting it towards taxes, which then you turn around, get on private jets, give over to Ukraine, give over to all of these other people without voting, and then at the same time turn around and not allow us to vote on things like gun laws and now take our guns from legal gun owners. Yet you have Pakistan and Iraq and Afghanistan and India coming in with these motherfuckers and guns in their hands in the middle of our streets, shooting things up like this is like a totally acceptable behavior. Because in Canada, we have a two-tier policing system and we have bail reform for immigrants. But if you're from Ontario and an intruder comes in your home like this other gentleman did 2 weeks ago, then you will go to prison, but that guy will get to walk. So part of the problem we have in Canada is we no longer have a national identity. I mean, we barely had one before. It was, hockey, maple syrup. It was, the stereotypes and we live in igloos and we say a boot and, and all that, eh? So we had those. And then we started importing all of the Middle East and South Asia. And then we go, wait, we can celebrate, we have to celebrate Diwali, but we can't say Happy Hanukkah. We have to celebrate Diwali, but we can't say Merry Christmas. We have to celebrate the Muslim Brotherhood walking around, the Khalistanis out in Surrey. And we can't talk about the 75 most dangerous gang members that came from India that lived 20 minutes from my house. God forbid we talk about that, honestly. And then we look at someone like Alberta. And we're like, of course they want to separate. But then at the same time, they talk out of both sides of their mouth, right? Because they allow kids who are autistic to kill themselves with MAID while giving over $80 million of their taxpayer dollars to build a Muslim location of schools and hospitals and doctors where that will be where things like Sharia law now kick in. And we also don't want to talk about the honor killings that we allow when those people don't go genuinely to prison because, it's their right to kill their kids. Get the fuck out of here. Go back to where you came from if you don't want to assimilate. Because Canada's eroding. It has been eroding. This is why you guys have seen me, and if you guys haven't, I'm sure somebody else has, on all of these podcasts since 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, going, are you guys aware your hat is on fire and we bring in more fentanyl than the South? Are you guys not aware of the amount of human trafficking that we bring in from South Asia that runs through our borders right down on top of you? Are you guys not aware that we're falling into communism and on the very far left and the very far right are the Chinese military training under the guise of no one else aware? And why do I know this? Because I worked there. Are you guys not aware that this all happened during COVID where the Chinese were marching literally along your borders? It blows my mind so much so that I've had meetings with the United States State Department and Donald Trump's right hand saying, are you guys aware that you have Republicans in places and states that are about to and have voted in euthanasia to kill your own citizens instead of getting them mental health care? And their response is, we had no idea this was happening. How does the United States State Department not know what Canada's doing and what our influence is on your society? That's insane.
Yeah, it is insane, but it's purposeful. It's pressure.
Of course it is purposeful.
It's pressure from above, pressure from below. And, I said this again on Conspiracy Social Club. If you want to make these laws where there's no law, then legalize vigilantism. You just got to do it, dude. The real problem is what you just stated. Someone breaks in your house, you fucking shoot them, and then we just saw a story of this. A guy tries to steal somebody's car, he shoots him, he gets 55 years. No. If you just don't want to enforce laws,
what?
You go look up.
Where?
I think it's in America.
No, I mean, what state?
Look it up.
The castle laws and the self-defense laws are all state by state.
Not that there's any excuse, but did he shoot him in the back? Because that's usually the California rule, where you got to shoot him in the front of the chest, basically, because once you hit him in their back, they were running away.
Could you turn
That's
around?
insane. You're on my property. You put one foot into my property.
I agree.
You're getting clapped.
Yeah.
I don't care. And I'll spin you around and hit you in every direction so you feel better about yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
But in Canada, but here's the thing, Sam, so I've been speaking now on my show's been around for 5 years, and I'm so banned in Canada. Trudeau's right hand called me through a nonprofit to threaten me during the trucker protest. So I'm so banned in Canada.
Welcome.
It's ungodly. So I come to the States, I bitch and whine about Canada, and then it slowly seeps its way out. But let's take a look at this. Most people don't even realize it's happening to Canada because we have what is so crazy. We have an iron curtain called Bill C-11, where the only other countries in the world that have it are North Korea, China, and Russia, and Canada. And we can't see media. And you guys can't see our media.
That is the craziest thing. You hear that, Johnny? That they, there's certain stories on Twitter that aren't allowed to be...
They're censored.
No.
Broadcast in Canada.
So wait up. If I send her an Instagram story, what does she get?
So here's the thing. I'll give you an example. So I did Tim Pool last month, okay? And we were promoting the show. We were doing it in real life. So I put it on Instagram. Here's the link, guys. Come watch the show because it was the first time I did a live show. And it pops up and it says, this information can't be viewed in Canada through a news source. It's not allowed. And then you have to flip a VPN on,
That's crazy.
show that I'm in the States or the UK, and then I can see it. But you have to use a VPN. And so when I was there, Tim, he goes, are you kidding? So I could put it onto X, but I couldn't put it onto Facebook or Instagram.
Unbelievable.
I mean, have they lost their fucking mind? Dude?
Yes.
Oh,
I mean,
that's the tip of the iceberg, son.
It is Bolshevik shit. This is Bolshevik shit. Yeah. It's just it's not as hidden as when the Bolsheviks did it. Like the Bolsheviks were out, but it wasn't where the head of the state.
Yeah, truly. Yeah.
I mean, look at Gavin Newsom, dude. Damn. We are watching a manufactured consent in real fucking time, dude.
Yeah.
Real time to convince you that this guy that is hated except for two places, LA and San Francisco, and he should be hated in San Francisco because he destroyed it. But once again, when you're in a rich kid Disneyland, they don't care about that stuff. The theory of hate is worse than actual real world consequences. It's just the truth, dude. Very interesting is, and people don't realize this, the DNC is getting no funding. They can't get anyone to fund their party. So you know what they did for the 2020 election that nobody talked about? They went to the cartels in Mexico to get their funding. That's where they went. The cartels are CIA owned, and they're funding these Democratic parties because the Democrats support the left and the progressives want subversion. That's why they'll get everything they want. The right is about conservatism, building up the family unit, building up education, building up law enforcement, building up a connection with God, and that empowers America. And the right will very rarely give them what they want. They'll give them little stupid things right now, like trans out of sports, trans out of bathrooms. They'll give them that. It seemed like cultural wars, but they won't give them what they really want, which is getting rid of the Fed, getting rid of cultural Marxism out of education, getting back to God. They'll never give them that because what they want is utter martial law. That's what they want.
And see, they don't actually want that, though, because then you'll get a bunch of people like me who spent 20 years going in and out of wars. Now, me, I did my deployment, but I'm saying all of my friends who did 20, 25 years that all go under certain letter agencies that now, if you see a guy, my warning when the LA thing was happening, right, was there was a meme that floated around.
Which LA thing? There's so many of them.
The most recent one where they brought the Marines in.
Okay.
And I thought to myself, I said to a few friends, I said, number one, which unit's going in? And I went, oh, okay, that's not good. And then number two, my thought is you don't really want martial law, right? Because if you start seeing a bunch of dads with glasses and button-ups and flak vests, you should run fast, you should run far, and you should run as far as you can because those dudes are all GWAT people. You don't really want martial law because if we actually started doing what we've been trained to do, it wouldn't take very long to overrun an entire city because we're strategically trained. And then you got people like the whole CIA thing where it's they're everywhere. They're running around in running shoes. And I had the same conversation. We were talking about the cartels this week. And one of the conversations I had was, You want to go fight the cartels. Okay, fight the cartels. But you have to understand how the cartels move. It is not just like Linda Lee was saying, well, we put tariffs on them. So eventually that'll pressure the cartels enough because Mexico needs us. My thought was, that's all good in thought, kind of like communism. But in principle, it doesn't really work out well never works because when you start to actually realize how the cartels move, it's no different. It's through fear. Decades and decades of fear, coercion, and corruption. Do you really think that tariffs and the fear of more tariffs are going to stop them? The cartels get all the way up to Canada, no problem. So do you really think that they care if you're going to stop tariffs?
Because they're CIA. That's why. They fund black ops operations. So when you're telling me that fentanyl is coming in through Canada, I go, yeah, because the CIA is getting it in. That's how they do it.
Because China owns Canada. So of course they're getting it in. The majority of, we have a tax in British Columbia, which is, for those who are like, Canada doesn't matter where it even is that, it's right above Washington, as far west as you can go, okay? So that's where the ports are. And so what you have to understand is that China owns a lot of these ports and land to the extent in which the BC government had to put in a separate tax for money from China because it's a money laundering operation. The joke is it's not called Vancouver, it's called Hongcouver for a reason. I'm not like, I wish I was funny. I'm not. Like, this isn't funny.
I think it's funny. Well, that's a funny name. I mean,
it's a funny name,
yeah,
but my point is, like, I'm not trying to be funny. It's so fucking delusional.
No, I get it. And listen, we're going through that right now. So we've done shows on this show. We've done episodes about like Broward County and how like all the psyops have been coming out Broward County for a long time. Well, the new city that they're doing it through is Minneapolis. Like everything's coming through Minneapolis. We had the George Floyd shit, and now we just had this trans school shooting. And you know, I mean, like Trump is lowering listen, and I'm not minimalizing people losing their kids. That's not what I'm saying right now. It's incredibly I couldn't understand what they're going through right now. I could not understand it. I would be absolutely devastated. In the past, there's been a lot of wonkiness with these shootings. And, you know, so right now, emotions are high. Yeah. And everyone's super sensitive, but then everyone starts asking questions, and that's where, and we do this every freaking time with these psyops. Every time something happens, conspiracy theorists see something instantly, and then there's a big fight, and then eventually get to the part where you're like, oh, the conspiracy theorists were right. But this is just every single time because people are emotional monkeys. But the reason I bring up Minneapolis is because we just did an episode a couple episodes ago about George Floyd, Derek Chauvin, and that club, that nightclub where China was laundering money through. That's where George Floyd gets the fake counterfeit money, is through the nightclub he's working in. So we have multiple psyops being ran out of Minneapolis, and they just pick these places that are insanely blue. And again, the progressive is it's like Malcolm X said, it's like the Unabomber said, never, ever, ever trust what is now called a progressive white. It just don't, because they're liars. They're liars. They don't want to support you. They feel bad for you. They look down on you. This stuff that they do is just pageantry. So the cover up their white guilt for being born into a rich family. It's like Michael Malice talking about how these progressive white females will use their children as trophies to make them trans. So
they love it.
It's
the greatest
so
gift
crazy.
is a trans child that you can use and market and manipulate. I mean, look at, was it Charlize Theron marching out with her son the other day, or daughter the other day? I don't know what they've turned it into, but what it's called is a mental health epidemic. It's called the mental health crisis. And it's, of course, I said this earlier this week. Yeah, it's cool. It sucks. Fentanyl is flowing in. People are dying. I mean, we don't talk about the east side of Vancouver, which is the worst in North America, but fuck that side. So that's fine. The fentanyl is here, but what are we doing about it when it's here? You have a mental health epidemic. You have a mental health epidemic in a young adolescent population, and then we wonder why people go around and shoot stuff up, right? This isn't None of this is rocket science. When you do what you're doing to a population and then you have a result that doesn't feel great, maybe take a look at what you're doing to the population. And I was in Minnesota over New Year's, and I back and forth. My guy's from there. He's a football player, so we're in and out of there. And I have never been like disrespected, seen called so many names, been so uncomfortable in a state before. And all I was wearing was an XXXY hat. And you would have thought I shot somebody straight in the face, just based on the attitudes. And then you wonder why, when you put kids in front of screens for so long, put them on all of these SSRIs that we know damage you long term, and then we don't give you any actual support. And we say, it's fine, just sit on TikTok for 14 hours and your brain's going to be perfectly fine. These people are manipulating the youth and then going, we have a gun law problem. We don't have a gun law problem. We have a mental health epidemic that no one's paying attention to their kids because they have to be trophies to trade them out and go, but my kid's also non-binary and he's also not sure if he's a cat. Aren't you proud of me for being so accepting? No,
Yeah,
your kid has a mental health
crazy.
problem. You should probably fucking fix that.
Yeah, it's really crazy, dude. It is. The programming is so strong. It's overriding their
So strong.
natural instincts to protect their children. It is absolutely insanity, dude. And now my kid enters kindergarten in California. I'm really not excited about it. They're at a great school. The teachers are the nicest people, but I'm not excited about the California curriculum. I think it's a lot of danger, man. It's a lot of danger. And it's like, it's all about making people functional in society, but not smart enough to change society. That's really what they want. That's the whole thing.
All you got to do, Sam, it's really simple. So we had this up here where I live again, it's Vancouver. So it's like the liberal hub. And my belief sets, as you can tell, probably don't match people around me and or any of my neighbors. So what we've done, and there is ways that you can do this, when my son entered the school system, you go, I'd like to have a meeting with the principal. Then you sit down with the principal and you go, hi, so-and-so. Here's the thing. If my child is exposed to any of the DEI trans ideology, here's what my plan of action is. Number one, I got a platform. It's got this many million followers, and this is what I'll do with it. Number two, I'll also go to a lawyer and insert my constitutional right to protect my child from emotional and mental manipulation. And if that is not heeded, then I'll go to a lawyer and I'll sue every single teacher who teaches it to them. There is a document that you can use and take and present to them. We did it to all of my son's teachers. And when they rolled out, which is called SOGI, Sexual Orientation and Gender Identification, in British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario schools, all that we said is, cool, if you want to teach that, my son's to be removed. And if he's not, any of the teachers that hold him to that will be brought up on a lawsuit. And this isn't rocket science, but the problem is you have a school system that values people's safe space over they value resiliency. They value them saying that nobody can be bullied or harmed in any way, shape, or form. But then when the kid actually starts to have a problem, they don't have the tools to help self-regulate. They just say, you know what? We think we should diagnose your kid. Have you thought of Ritalin? And it's like, none of these things are actual problems. It's putting a kid in prison for 8 hours a day, telling them to sit still. Because I don't know if you've ever compared an actual prison to what a school looks like, but it's identical. The only difference is prisoners get more outside time, more grass time, more field time than the children actually get.
No, it is. Here's the thing, guys. The days of just going with the flow is done.
No,
You
we
have
don't do
to. You
that.
have to start going to Board of Education meetings. I'm going to do one after today. They got a Zoom meeting. I'm showing up to that. You got to
for
show
you.
up to your city councils. It has to be. Now, we had this moment where the U.S. government was going to pass a law which stated if you didn't support Israel, you would not
Right.
get FEMA funding, and the collective whole of the country freaked the fuck out. And what they do, they backed off. I just telling you, these are moments you have to understand. The Cracker Barrel thing, which is like,
Yes.
right? I mean, they got their dicks kicked in, and they saw what happened to Bud Light, who kept doubling down on it, and they lost their market share. Cracker Barrel flipped it back. You know, they're like, we're bringing back the cracker, and we're bringing back the barrel. So,
Well, look at American Eagle. You have to learn to capitalize on these things or adapt or die. But if you start pandering to the 0.1% of the population
Yes.
that is mentally unwell, What do you think is going to happen?
It's not really pandering to them. It's pandering to BlackRock that has blackmailed everybody into ESG scores. So you like if you bring out a chick with a dick with Bud Light, you know, it's just you get a big points with them because they'll bring you into their portfolios and all that shit. Am I wrong, Johnny, on that? I know you were saying there was some discussion that I'm not correct on that.
Maybe the details, but no, but in spirit, I agree completely.
So there's this whole thing to play that game, so that's why they do it. But what was actually starting to happen is as they try to placate BlackRock, they lose their entire base. And then nobody wants your stocks because nobody's buying your stuff. And that's where Hollywood has gotten to. It's this business model that we've been in for a while. And again, Justine Bateman was talking about it, how the streaming services no longer make entertainment for people. They make it for the suits. So the suits are happy. And, you know, Louis Anderson said it a long time ago. He goes, when I was starting comedy, the industry listened to us about what's funny. And then it became we had to do what the suits wanted, and that's not art, and that's not business, and that's not anything. It should be bottom line is either you're making money or not making money. That is the bottom line, and we're seeing people suffer for that. And you know, it's like I'm not into sexism. I'm not into any of that. I mean, I would love to take away women's right to vote, but outside that, only kidding.
Hey.
But I mean, look you show me a trans reading to kids who's around them, smiling white women, and thinking this is some spiritual fucking moment. You know, not that men are all right either. I've gotten in plenty of fights with guys just regurgitating stupid talking points. But you know, what I'm finding is that there's just people that haven't learned history. They just don't know history. And there's a history of this subversion from within, and they're gleefully doing it for the moment. They're let's say they're winning the moment of time, but sacrificing their children. They're like they think they have a victory, but they're really losing in the long run.
But that's not just like a children thing. Like you're having that in Canada. You're now having it very quietly in the United States, and that's kind of when I had one thing kind of pop off on Peterson because we talked about the US in this way. But you're having these very liberal white women. I'm so glad you worded it that way because now it gives me permission to kind of lean into that. So these liberal white women that we have here, you have a subset of them up in Canada right now that are actually speaking and lobbying the United States with it too, and UK and Australia. And their names are Dr. Ellen Weeb and Stephanie Green. And they lobby the government and currently are lobbying all of the people and population and trying to tell them that they should allow their kids to kill themselves with medical assistance in dying. And these are all super lovely lefty white women who just hate their lives and project it outward onto everyone else to the point where now people are normalizing killing their family members and their kids to the tune of $16,500 a year and climbing.
Now, I watched your clip, I think it was with Jordan Peterson, in which you discussed the process of what's it called? MAID
MAID,
and it's incredibly gruesome. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Have you guys heard this? What actually happens when you do assisted suicide through the government in Canada?
No, I haven't.
No, it's great. Wait till you hear this.
Yeah, so here's the thing is you guys are getting it in the United States. You guys call it physician-assisted suicide. We call it euthanasia because they're two different things. I'll explain the difference for you. So I got this opportunity to do Peterson, and I said, look, less than 24 hours ago, I just got a statement. I'd like to read it. It's going to be uncomfortable. Lean in with me. And he goes, all right. So here's the difference. Physician-assisted suicide looks like this. Kelsi, I know you want to kill yourself. You have some irremediable condition you're never going to get better from. Here's the poison in this cup. I'm going to hand it to you, and you're going to drink it. Fun fact, there is research studies and a lot where it not only poisons your entire body, but also it takes somewhere up to 137 hours to die. So that's supposed to be peaceful.
Oh my God.
Can you regret that? Can't you just throw up? Like, what if midway you're like,
yeah, it happens all the time. People start vomiting. It's horrific.
But that's at that point. It's not like you could throw it all out. It's not in you. Once it hits you, it's in your system.
No, I agree. But if you have 100 hours where that
I think
takes
the
that
vomit
long.
thing is a myth, though. Actually, like that, you can if you vomit, it somehow reverses the ancient.
I was just saying, like hour 50, I might be like, yo, you start having thoughts that you
So-
didn't have. So yeah, keep going. My head.
So I'll give you guys some stats, and I'll speak to America too a lot on this, because I obviously I don't want to lose your American listeners and them being like, this is only happening in Canada. No, it's happening in 10 states in one jurisdiction and being lobbied every single day in America. So again, your U.S. State Department didn't know, but I know. Okay, so what's worse though about what Canada's doing is at least America's like, you know what, we'll qualify you sketchily, even though you don't actually qualify to die, but you'll sure enough save us a lot of money not to treat you. So if you're willing to drink the poison, we'll sit here and watch.
That is so crazy.
Oh, that's not even the tip. So in Canada, what we do in 2016, we started this thing because Dying with Dignity, who is, by the way, that's a like an oxymoron. There is no dying with
100%.
dignity. So what happens in Canada is we actually do it a little different and a little more dark. So we're like, okay, you know what? Sam, you have a terminal condition. You're going to die in like the next couple months. We don't want to see you suffer and live out your natural death, even though we have palliative care and morphine and we have fentanyl and we can help you pass around your family. So you're not going to be drowned to death. So here's what we're going to do. Nobody wants to look after you anymore. Healthcare doesn't want to burden you anymore. And we'll save a lot of money if we just off you now. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to the doctor. More often than not, it's going to be someone like Ellen Weeb, which, by the way, has admitted to over 1,000 deaths by herself, loves it, does abortions by day and MAID by night in her office in Vancouver. Super
Angel
fun.
of death.
Oh, I got stuff for you. So here's what we'll do. You're going to go in, Sam. You're going to sit down. We're actually not going to tell your family members because we don't really love that they know, because they bring in the cops, right? And we actually did that in October and got it stopped at the 11th hour because what she was doing was illegal. So what they do, we're going to hook up 2 IVs. They're going to be big ports too, like big old ports. And then we're going to push the first drug. Okay. You're going to feel a little dizzy, a little groggy. Then we're going to push our second drug. And only Canada does this, by the way, because we're sinister fucks. We're going to give you a paralytic. We're going to paralyze you, Sam.
Ugh.
Sam, we're going to paralyze you. Why? Because we know that it's not peaceful and we know that it's horrific. And then what's going to happen next when we blow your veins out, which, by the way, they have to put in multiple IVs because it's so much drugs into the system, because not a single one of these drugs has ever been FDA approved for killing, because you can't do research on killing people because that's called eugenics. Cut to knowing history.
My God.
So after you paralyze them, and you think that they're all peaceful because grandma looks peaceful because she can't fucking move. What happens is they push the next drug. Are you ready for the next drug? What's going to happen is your lungs are going to explode and go into a pulmonary edemic state, and you're going to drown on your own fluids. And when you hear grandma gargling, going like that, but can't scream or move or say stop, we're going to hope that it actually works and that she passes away. But here's what happens.
God.
Here's what happens often, my friend, and we have tons of cases and proof, regardless of what Ellen Weeb wants to say in Maclean's magazine and everywhere else she likes to run her mouth about me, is we actually have written statements and doctors who have left the home, which, by the way, a nurse or a GP or anybody can do this in a public park. Doesn't have to be done in a hospital, can be done in your home. And what'll happen is patients wake up. Patients wake up and have to be killed again.
Fuck.
And here's the next part. We take your organs because it's now a presumed organ donor when you're a MAID recipient in Canada.
So you can take poisoned organs and
that's
give them
crazy.
to people?
Absolutely. We actually have a thing called euthanasia by organ donation, where a person who is not actually, we have cases of this in the United States, over 400, 300 and something last year alone. And they know for sure at least 100 of them were non-compliant deaths. So what that means is somebody was deemed brain dead, for whatever that is, because now we understand the brains heal, people wake up out of comas, all this stuff happens all the time. So what it means is they'll wheel a semi-healthy in coma patient and they'll wheel them into an OR. Okay. And at this point, they think that they're dead, but you know, they've only done like the eye flutter test or stuff like that. And then we'll just take their heart while it's still beating, because those are the organs that deteriorate the fast. And that's actually how you die.
God.
Canada's the leader. Fun fact for you. We have killed over 77,000 so far. And the reason I got involved in this is because they started offering it to friends of mine who are also combat veterans when they were asking for help. They said, and I quote, "It would be easier than blowing your brains out on the wall." So a MAID person was offered, someone was offered to kill that person when they were just like, "I need help because, you know, I went to war and like sacrificed my life for this country. So could you help me?" And instead they're like, "You know what? Why don't you kill yourself?"
Unbelievable, dude. Do you hear the story about the woman who just asked for a ramp in her house? And they're like,
Yes,
you know,
I know because I talked about her on my show, The Kelsi Sheren Perspective, Christine Gauthier. She's an artillery gunner.
Yeah.
She hurt her back.
Is that
and then she was
crazy?
into a wheelchair.
And she's like, "I need a ramp on my house." You're like,
Yep.
well, why don't you just kill yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. It's for real. Why this is so important for America to pay attention to is because we have allowed this thing called track one. So it's like, but Kelsi, you don't want grandma to suffer. She's got cancer. You want to make sure she's not in any pain, so we'll MAID her. So you're like, okay, I can get behind Alzheimer's dementia. And then you realize that they actually paralyze and drown you to death. And then you're like, you know what? Maybe we'll just rock that out in the house instead, because that seems like murder. So what Canada did in 2021 was like, oh my God, there's so many people that just are suffering so hard and want to die, and they want to save some money. So we're going to call track two. Track two is for non-terminally ill and is for people who are irremediable or grievous. So they've killed deaf people. They've killed paralytics. They people who are like quad or just from the waist down. They've killed people who have been in depression but had another comorbidity. And starting in 2027, which is such a great advertisement for Pfizer because they build the kits for them, and Ellen Wiebe and them actually speak with Pfizer. Again, let me be clear, no research. We don't actually know how it works, but somehow we're allowed to do it. In 2027, people with mental illness alone. So like, you don't have to be terminal. You don't have to be sick. You don't have to have something that's actually harming you. You just got to say, "Hey, I'm depressed. Life's real hard." And they'll go, "You know what? In 24 hours to 3 weeks, we'll kill you."
It's so crazy.
Oh, let's take it a step further because that wasn't enough.
It keeps going. It just doesn't stop. We
Mature
throw you
minors.
in a pit of vipers, and we have snakes choke you out.
This is like those infomercials. But there's
Whoa,
more.
Wait, there's more
Hey.
bad news.
Hey, kids. We're doing kids next, guys.
Oh, God.
Mature minors down to the age of 12. And according to the College of Physicians in Quebec, we also do the let them die or 0 to 1, where you can MAID your baby if they have spinal bifida or Down syndrome.
It's just unbelievable.
It's horrible.
Do you see why people don't want to have this conversation with me, Sam? Remember I texted you and was like, why won't these people talk to me? And they're like, and you're like, I don't know.
No, I mean, like, listen, dude, we're living in a time where there's,
much.
scary facts. People are afraid to they rather hear uncomfortable lies than uncomfortable lies. What's it
Yeah.
called? Than unsettling truths. I mean, it's just where we're at, dude. And it's just really sad. You know, that progressivism is a disease. It is a virus. And it's like, I get like, you want people to live your life. You want people to be left alone. You want everybody to get along. I get that too. I totally get that too. But there's a death cult involved.
Oh, thank you for saying that, because this is one of the things I repeat often, because they're like, you should probably stop saying their names. I'm like, well, it's all public knowledge, so no. And I want them to be known because they are a part of a eugenics program. So if you do understand history, eugenics has been around since the 1800s, and they started doing it in World War I, and then in World War II, they started doing it to kids and, you know, shell shock veterans, and Hadamir Castle in Germany. And that's how they actually started perfecting how to kill people most effectively before the Holocaust, was using it on difficult eaters, women who needs lobotomies, which, by the way, for sure would have been me. But the thing is we're looking at, we're forgetting what history has taught us. And what it has taught us is that you guys can very easily get rid of problems if you justify that it's utter compassion and empathy and care.
Yeah.
And that's really what's happening, is this new erosion. And you know, I've said this before, but MAID, so medical assistance in dying, because they like to put really fancy terms on it, so you don't actually just say what it is. Killing people, murder, death, that's what this is. You're turning healthcare practitioners into serial killers by saying, you know, you can do as many of these as you want a day. And we know a doctor in
No, what
Calgary
they're
does
really doing is
six a
turn
day.
them into veterinarians. They're
Well,
really getting turned into
no, 'cause
veterinarians.
Here's the thing, though, Sam. Even veterinarians use a painless tactic, which we don't allow to do to people. They use They use, barbitol, pentobarbital. We can't use that. So we use drugs that we don't understand how they work, even though they're non-FDA approved. And we have doctors who used to be people who only delivered babies coming up with these protocols, partnering with the NIH, which you can actually go see. Canada's MAID kits on the NIH under there. They stayed a paralytic emphatically. And that was their hit on me a long time was, Kelsi, Canada doesn't use a paralytic. I'm like, but it does. Like, what are you talking about? And then if you talk to the doctors that perform MAID, they really truly believe in this delusion that they are helping someone. And there's a, we have a media outlet. They're all propaganda because they're all paid by the left. But we have a media outlet called the National Post, and they interviewed Ellen Wiebe. And there's a couple documentaries I've been in where we've talked about this, but they interviewed Ellen and they said, look, Ellen, like, what is it that you love about it? And I'm not even exaggerating, on camera. She goes, it's the most beautiful work I've ever done. I feel so good after it. It's so meaningful. And I said on my show yesterday with another individual, I said, could you imagine? I come home from Afghanistan, Sam, and I go, Sam, pulling that trigger was the most beautiful work I'd ever done. Yeah, I felt so good about it. Leaving someone suffering in a country where they don't get to go to school or have running water. How heartwarming was it to just pull those artillery lanyards and just go, so wonderful. But you have healthcare practitioners and government lobbyists going, no one should ever have to suffer. This is a symptom of a sick society that we have created where walls are closing in, healthcare is crumbling, and they go, how else do we deal with it? Well, we partner with Pfizer, we make the kits, we make sure that there's always 2 kits so you can double up on all the drugs that you prescribe and then charge the government. And then, we'll look like compassionate and empathetic people. So then the United States gets involved. And they've been killing people a long, long time. But there was a story that came out of Hawaii last year, which was wild. I said this to Tulsi Gabbard. I said, are you consciously aware before she was in this government that this is happening in your state? A doctor was euthanizing a gentleman. And halfway through, he said, please stop. I don't want this. And the doctor kept going.
Unbelievable.
So, there's 20 states that have legalization bills.
Let me ask you
Colorado's
something.
Expanding.
What is the money that these doctors make off this?
Oh, so the doctors
That's the only way. If a doctor's putting you under to kill you and you're like, please don't do this, I don't want to do this anymore. The only incentive for him is the money at the end of the procedure.
Unless he's a psychopath, like this woman obviously is.
We have. A friend of mine, Dr. Christopher Lyon, his father was killed wrongfully with MAID as well. He teaches over at York University. He's a Canadian veteran as well. He writes papers on this, and he writes on healthcare serial killers. And he's like, look, this is indicative of that. If you're saying, because right now, I love the words they use.
Damn, dude.
In Canada, we have 1,800 providers, murderers. And then out of the 16,500 estimate from last year, because we don't have the numbers yet. So if you just took the year before, the 15,341, out of 1,800 people doing the death and somehow sleeping at night, around 300 are doing the large majority. That means there's roughly 300 people killing thousands a year. 13,000 was one of the years. The first time I broke the story was on Pierce Morgan, and it was roughly around 10,500. Okay. So it's climbing every year. It went from 8,000 to 10,000 to 13,000 to now over 16,000. And we're well over 77,000, which means our own doctors and our own system has killed more people than our people lost in World War II, and we were hyper involved in World War II. So the reason the United States needs to kind of hear this is because you have 10 states, 1 jurisdiction. Last year, you had 20 states that had legal bills moving forward, and you have West Virginia passing amendments to provide to stop it, but they're not like the only ones. In 2025, there were 18 states with assisted suicide legalization bills. And here's what happens. The Journal of Death and Dying came out with a rough estimate if Canada, once 2027 happens, once mental illness kicks over, and now like everyone can qualify, including kids, they have stated, and this was just their overarching like numbers, okay? If Canada starts using it the way that they have been using it, from 2027 to 2047, they were going to euthanize 14.7 million Canadians, and it would save Health Canada $1.273 trillion on healthcare. And they broke the math down. Veterans, suicidal, the elderly, the indigenous. And they said, because this is supposed to go through in law, there is not a goddamn thing to stop it or slow it at this point. But here's where it gets worse. 96% of the people that are actually using MAID are white.
96?
Asian populations aren't, Black aren't,
Yep.
Indian aren't.
Yep.
Like, it's only white people.
It's a
so when people
war.
say, Kelsi, there's no such thing as the replacement theory, I go, in Canada there is, in the United States it started, but it's happening so quietly that even when, after I did Jordan Peterson, that clip went so viral that the Delaware government was voting in this law, and the own liberal flipped it on the floor because they asked him after seeing it, how do the drugs work? And he couldn't answer the question. So your own government does not know how it works. They just know that they're doing it. And there are organizations in America that are, we call them like the cowboys. So they don't do it with drugs. They go in with helium balloons and bags, and then they leave so it looks like that person just died a natural death.
Oh my God.
America's
Serial
happening.
kill-
People just are like,
Everybody's got a third world dictator in them, dude.
Can I ask, is there a version of this? Because you mentioned that they use inferior methods, more painful
Yeah.
methods. Is there a version of this that you think is morally defensible, or is it
No.
at its core wrong, do you think?
it's core wrong, because think of it this way. And I went overseas. I did some stuff. I'll live with that the rest of my life. But, I'm not saying it was right either. And I'm not justifying what I did. I'm just saying I was 18 and I did a job that at the time I believed was right. And I stand by that. That being said, as somebody who knows what it's like to watch someone's lights go out, we're not preparing doctors for what it's like to take lives, because they took an oath, right? Do no harm.
Yeah.
Now we're turning around and saying, do all the harm.
All the harm.
And it's a self-reporting system, my friend. So say something goes wrong, the doctor can just say it wasn't a big deal because it's a self-reporting system. So no, I don't think, I've thought long and hard about this, because I was never a pro-life person. I've always been like, your body, your choice, live your life. Then COVID happened and I was like, oh, that's a psyop. So I started looking at this and going, you know what? How do I actually feel? Here's the thing. If we did not have pain control and palliative care, we did not have hospice. And I just had a whistleblower nurse who was a palliative care nurse on the show last week named Tammy. And we went through everything. And she goes, Kelsi, this is a 50-year science. I have had patients who have been active dying in dementia, walking around with smiles on their face, because we are so good at getting the drugs right that they don't suffer on their way out. But they're there, they're present in their body. And yes, they're in active dying. But who are we to turn around and say to somebody else, whoever told you were never going to suffer, number one. Whoever told you life was devoid of suffering.
Yep.
Number two, who are we to make the decision for anybody that we should take your life? We have control over pain management. Everybody should have the choice to live to their natural foreseeable death. But that's not what's happening in Canada and the United States. It's being slow dripped into the psyche through shows like Mary Kills People, through documentaries, through people like that new show with Nicole Kidman in it, where she plays the rich white woman on the beach, where grandma has the suicide pills. We're slow dripping the idea that murder and killing instead of healthcare is acceptable. So no, killing is killing and killing is wrong.
What about those who seek it out?
Oh, so here's the thing. We've now done studies and research in Canada to know that those that seek it out, more often than not, are mentally unwell, have other outside conditions, have family members pressuring and calling them a burden, and a financial burden on the system. There was actually a department store called Simon's out of Quebec, which is like the Bay, or like one of your guys is like a Nordstrom. Okay. And it was called Simon's. And a couple of years ago, they used this girl who was not terminal, not dying, but needed health care in Canada. They used her in a Home Goods ad of her on the beach and it's all over the internet, with bubbles going out. And she talked about how she was going to be mating herself because, it was a beautiful thing to do while selling their Home Goods. And the reason is that she chose MAID. My sweet soul, she could not get access to health care. So do you think that people truly actually just seek it out? Because I had a lady last year, this is the one we got stopped. who was suffering from akathisia, which is what most people know about because of Jordan Peterson's stint when he was struggling getting off of benzos.
Yeah.
So benzos and those, when you get off of psychiatric drugs, will cause sometimes things like akathisia, which is excruciating. You can't stop pacing, you can't stop moving. It's horrific to live with. And this lady, which by the way, had no other ailments other than bipolar cycling 2 in her medical record. She sought out through a suicide group, Dr. Ellen Wiebe, because they heard Ellen was easy to get to. And she got on one Zoom call because her husband was right beside her, and I've spoken with both of them. And this doctor didn't look at her medical records, didn't check for mental health issues, didn't check for predispositions, didn't check for anything, and lied about akathisia and said she was just in excruciating pain and she wanted to die. Within one Zoom call, with never checking her in person at all, Ellen Wiebe qualified her. And she flew out to British Columbia and was scheduled to die on Sunday night at 7 p.m. And we and a bunch of my other people got in a group chat, got a lawyer, and put in the very first court injunction.
Whoa.
And now that family is suing that doctor for criminal negligence.
Fantastic.
You're a firecracker.
That's great.
So my point is, if you want to kill people, you want to go kill yourself. Like, keep the government out of it, keep families out of it, stop saying that it's acceptable, stop saying that we should kill ourselves. How about stop messing around, give people proper health care, stop drugging them out of their minds and telling them they're broken, and actually help the system. Because killing you is not the way to get to a prosperous society. Again, communism in thought works, but in practice and principle, it doesn't work.
It doesn't even in thought work. I mean,
Well, you know what I mean.
the
It's like
no,
ridiculous
I know what you're saying.
altogether.
I'm not arguing with you on that. But the truth of the matter is if you study these people, again, every bad idea ever created was created by a rich kid. I mean, it's just created by a rich kid. I'm reading right now. I'm still reading Alexander II. Okay, I'm doing the best I can.
But you're reading, Sam, so that
I'm
helps.
trying to. But you know where Karl Marx and his ideas came from? You know where he was? In London. In London, when everyone was moving to London because it was this artistic rebellion movement going on there, and he was a rich kid, and who lives in London, the city of London, the Rothschilds. They find out about this guy and they just promote his shit. Like when the first book about communism, what was Karl Marx's famous book? Do you remember?
The Communist Manifesto?
Yeah, he wasn't even included in it. It wasn't until later on they put him in it.
Well, it was Engels, right? It was Marx
Yeah,
and
I
Engels.
mean, it's all bullshit. And it's all done by death cult. This is what I want to say to people, because I know people that sometimes think about, calling it a day. And I'm just going to tell you, if you're asking me, dude, you end your soul contract, you're coming back. You're coming back into the exact same space, and you're going to figure it out. Until you figure it out, you're going to keep doing it over and over. That is my belief.
Oh, and imagine suffering that consequence because you chose to end it at like 5 minutes before the goal line. You know what I mean? Just a little
Right.
early. Oh.
But that's the thing we have to pay attention to, and we're not like. I mean, I know you guys. I've listened. I've been a big fan of the show for a long time. I listen to what you guys talk about. That's why when Sam was like, "Would you do it?" I'm like, "Oh my god, yes!" Because here's the thing: we understand suicidality. I've been in this space a long time. When I got injured in Afghanistan, they gave me 11 different psychoactive drugs when I was 19. Okay, they all contraindicated, and I was very unwell. But the reason why that is important to bring up is because when somebody is medicated on an SSRI or an antipsychotic or a sleep med or an upper or down or whatever they are on, right? That is going to directly impact your frontal lobe. And your frontal lobe is important for a lot of reasons, but mainly because it's your executive function control, your decision making, your impulse. Those things, when they are clouded and they are in a place where you can't think clearly, right? The thing we understand, I just had a doctor on that specializes in, he was in the pharmaceutical industry, and then he got out because he realized all the drugs that he was prescribing for SSRIs were hurting people. And he said, look, Kelsi, he's like, it numbs you, sure, it's temporary, but we know that depression specifically is not an actual chemical imbalance. That's a lie we've been sold by the pharma companies. What it actually is a lack of purpose, lack of community, lack of support, lack of movement, lack of healthy food, and what you put in your body. Because you are the sum of the five: sounds, people, food, environments, and otherwise. So if you're constantly unhappy with no purpose. You're never sleeping. You're never moving your body. You're always drinking alcohol. And then you slap pharmaceutical drugs on you. How can we trust that somebody who says, I'm suicidal, should then have the wherewithal to say, yep, that person should qualify to die, when you know for a fact they're under an influence? We need to fix the problems. And the root is purpose, community, support, sleep, movement, food. And the second you fix those, everybody will wake up. And then you start looking at things like psychedelic assisted therapy, because that helps rewire and fire the brain. And that's how you genuinely heal people. But you can't do it the way we're doing it. So, but then again, we're giving people access to kill themselves with a doctor, but we're banning psilocybin and mushrooms, because one heals and helps. One ends the problem and stops the money flow issue that you're having in the country's healthcare problem, right? So, of course, there's going to be a motive. The motive is we don't want to pay as much. We want control. And it's really easy to wipe out 96% of people who are white and then just replace them with everyone from India and Pakistan into Canada. And then the US is doing the same. So it's not that it's too late. It's just that the rationale behind why we do things, which you guys obviously very clearly understand, there's always a deeper motive, but is control. And if you tell people they should check out, then they will. If I was offered MAID in 2015 before I started Brass and Unity, I'm telling you right now, I for sure would have become a statistic. I tried it multiple times. I did a whole TED talk on suicidality and the 22 to 44 suicides a day of veterans. They banned it. They blocked it for a reason, but they promoted minor attracted person pedophilia instead. So you can't tell me they actually want people to be better and to be healthy and to be functioning. They want compliance, they want control, and they want a society that they can manipulate whenever they say jump.
Yeah, just watch the show Silo and you see what.
Oh, that's so creepy, that show.
Yeah, I mean, it's woke as shit. It gets to the point where you're annoyed, but it's a great storyline. It's a really great storyline. And it's exactly what's going to happen when Pelletier comes in. It's exactly what happens when you give the weak power. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. And again, you just have people who have no purpose in their life finding purpose through these windmills they're fighting. Just all this stuff, institutional racism and misogyny, patriarchy, homophobia. These are just windmills you're fighting that, as a rich kid, gives you purpose in the morning. And when you wake up in the morning, instead of actually going out and creating something on your own and having purpose in your life. And that's kind of how I see it.
They found that with addiction too. They found that with addiction, people need a purpose. Can I it feels like you're winding down. I just want to ask one question. Have you heard, I know you said you recently interviewed someone in hospice, and I remember reading over the past couple of decades that people in hospice have been found to, under the guise of palliative care, being using opiates off-label to suicide people, essentially. Have you heard much about that?
So I've actually had a ton of guests on my show who are whistleblowers in this space. And again, due to the fact that I'm banned in Canada, YouTube has also put all the strikes on my account, so it's not a shock. But here's what I'll tell you, is there's a really great law firm that is owned by who used to be a 20-year nurse. It's called Valor Law out of Alberta, and she's now a lawyer going up against the Canadian government for, vaccine mandates, kicking out veterans wrongfully, all the things that nobody wants to fight. This she's a badass. So anyway, she goes to me one day. She goes, I said, so did you really experience this? And she goes, yeah, absolutely. So here's what we would do. Not even palliative care or hospice, my friend. People will do this in the ERs or in ICU. And Dr. Joel Zivit, who I spoke about on Jordan Peterson, is, he's a critical care doctor. He's spoken about it. It's called the double blind. Okay. So what they do is if the patient's not, they have to show that they're in extreme pain and that there is suffering happening and that they're not going to make it, somebody's got in a nasty car accident and this person's on their way out kind of thing. They don't want them to suffer. So what they'll do is they'll do the double blind. So they're going to say to the family, look, I can increase the pain management, but the repercussions of said pain management will mean slowing of the breath, maybe of the pulse, and they'll more than likely just naturally fall away. And this isn't one nurse or two nurses. I've got an anesthesiologist across the street from me who says the same thing. I have doctors that won't go on record because they're so afraid of the Canadian government. My inbox is flooded with people saying this is something we do. It's more humane. MAID is really sketchy. We get a lot of patients who don't qualify, who all of a sudden are in our ER, in there getting ready to be killed. There's no reason for that, but their organs look really good. So you're getting this kind of weird dance. And so it's not just hospice. And I see it less and less in hospice and palliative care. And I see it more and more in hospitals because they need beds. So the double blind exists. It is a known, but it is what I would consider a more compassionate way. Whereas MAID and euthanasia are, like, again, I qualify currently as I'm sitting talking to you right now. I'm treatment. I'm going to give you the labels they told me. I don't believe in any of them. Post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, hearing loss, which is true. I'm deaf as shit. And then I've got treatment-resistant depression, and then major depressive disorder, and then postpartum depression. Now, I had to fight for like well over a year, I believe it was, with the government and follow a protocol called the Special Access Program of Canada, where only roughly around 97% of people are denied. And all I was fighting for was legal regulated access to psilocybin. So I could sit with a macrodose legally in a structured setting with integration, because I'm an integration specialist in this space. And I was approved, but the majority of people who were terminally ill were not. So then it takes people like me and others to go to places like Heroic Hearts Project and go to Peru and go to these places and go outside. And even when I testified in the Senate of Canada multiple times, saying psilocybin, ayahuasca, community, purpose, my company, and those around me, not the healthcare system, saved my life. Why aren't we giving this to the rest of the population to help them? And they say, well, it's a Schedule 1 and it's dangerous. There's nothing dangerous about psilocybin. You can't overdose on it.
This guy's on it right now. Look how good he's doing.
I mean, I have it with me everywhere I go. The point is, there are ways to help and heal people, but that would require them to actually want to help and heal people. So to your point, yes, the double blind exists. Yes, people do it. Is it more compassionate? For sure. But that's not what's happening. We keep you alive enough to take your organs, because Canada's big on that in the red market, and it's just kind of coming out now.
It's all money.
So would you advise
all money,
against
baby.
Putting organ donor on your license?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right?
So here's the thing. Canada is just changing it right now. There's a new bill in. I talked about it yesterday. I just found out yesterday. It's called Bill 4. And what it's stating is that you will become a presumed donor automatically. So the only way you actually
opt out. Oh no.
You have to call them and say, I am not donating my organs, suck it. And then they have to make sure it goes onto your license. But say I get in a car accident right now and this bill goes through and I'm nonverbal and it's not written somewhere, they're taking my stuff, man.
That's crazy.
Here's the problem. The elites aren't afraid of us.
No.
We're so passive. And I'm not saying to do anything, but these CEO shootings are scaring the shit out of them. And they're trying to control it. I'm just telling you, dude, bring
But
back
Sam, you're doing something right now, right?
Legalize being a whatever.
Vigilante.
But Sam, you're doing it right now, though. You're waking people up right now. So when you're like, we can't do anything about it, they're afraid of podcasters. I don't know if you've caught on, but like, they really don't like when you or I go on big platforms, like whether you go on Rogan or I go on Peterson or Trigonometry or Lex or whatever. They don't like when you start airing their dirty laundry out. They really don't like it. And that wakes people up. So I've told people, write your MPs, do all of these things, and remind them who pays them and who votes them in. And if you don't believe in that, then the least you can do is turn around and tell 5 people. And you don't have to yell at them. Like, I know people are like, Kelsi, they don't receive it because you talk at people. I'm not talking at people. I'm so shocked all the time. Every day I open my email at another person who's been killed. Sick kids' children, sick kids' hospital just poisoned an 18-month-old I know. And somehow that's okay. But the head of Sick Kids also was advocating for kids to be killed with euthanasia, but he runs Sick Kids. So it's like, I'm not trying to talk at people. I'm trying to say to you, this is crazy. I feel crazy. I know I'm not. Can you please share this information? Because if you don't know, you can't change it. You can't stop it. So you're doing that work by talking. You don't have to go out and start clapping CEOs. You just got to start airing them out.
What if I just show him and start clapping at him?
Oh my God. Please do it and tag me. I'd appreciate that a lot.
All right,
Kelsey said I can clap you.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
fine.
clapping you. I'm clapping you. Maybe that's what P. Diddy was doing when they said he was just
Totally.
clapping them, dude. I'm just clapping.
I'm clapping. I don't know how that guy's walking around. That's
wave
insane.
in front of men. Unbelievable.
Where's all the angry white women that are against like violence and beating up women there?
Well,
like,
I'll tell you what's going on. They're not having kids, and studies have shown that when women have children, they become more conservative. But when they don't have kids, they just drift into the deep progressive, and they put that motherly instinct on everybody. And because the internet is an illusion, it's an illusion. So they think whatever they see in front of them is the big issue of the day. But actually, what going viral is the craziest shit. But we see it so much and normalize it. So they're like, oh my God, these trans kids. Oh my God. Like, I used to have a joke. Like, if Bill's going from LA to New York on a train traveling 60 miles an hour, how many days till he sees a trans kid? And it's just like 0. He's not going to see any. It's not a real thing. And so now they got these studies where they're like asking high school kids their sexuality, and it's like, 40%, because it's all young girls saying they're bisexual because they think that guys will think that's hot.
Well, I mean, it is hot. Number one. Number two, have you read the book?
Well played. Yeah, but listen, as a guy who's been in the game for a while, most of them aren't bisexual. It's more just a sales pitch. It's a real bait and switch, by the way.
It's working.
You know the way you text it, Sam. This is how you check. You go, let me see your nails.
What?
I said if you want to know if somebody's actually, just check their nails. There's no chance if they're long ass nails that they're bisexual anyway.
Really? Wow. We learned something new today. If you got long nails, you're not chowing box. Listen, Kelsi, it's been great. Thank you for coming on. Why'd you go great? She's talking about finger blasting. You were fine with that.
What?
I was
just laughing.
No, that was good.
I was going to say, what did I do? Did I cross the line? I thought I was with good company. Listen.
No line. If there is a line,
Okay.
we'll snort that line. But so
I support that.
You're welcome. Yeah, me too. There was a time. One more time, tell them where they can find you.
You can find me everywhere on every social platform under Kelsi Sheren. Or if you want to work with me, you're an athlete, you're somebody who wants to change their life, KelsiSheren.com. And if you guys really want to risk hearing me rant for hours and hours every day about the darkest shit in the world, but you can change it, you can check it out at Kelsi Sheren Perspective, either on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, as long as I don't get one more strike. But hell, maybe after this, we'll get there.
Well, that's what just happened to us. We literally had to take the show off YouTube, and we had a fan uploading it, and we just bought the channel from him because he got
So
the
smart.
40. Yeah, I mean, so it is what it is. But anyways, thanks for coming on. Listen,
Okay, everybody. Sam forgot to end the show here, so this is me doing that. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We're going to recap the show now, have a little promo, and then come back and finish talking about it.
All right, guys, what'd you guys think of Kelsi Sheren? What'd you guys think?
I used to want to visit Canada. It used to be a spot, especially the way you used to talk about it.
I still love Canada.
Dude, they might try to obviate that you're Mexican, you're having a tough time. Why don't you kill yourself, bro?
Just do it.
Yeah,
We'll take
hey,
care of
dude,
it.
are you
We'll take care of it.
illegal? You can't get a green card.
You can't live here, but we will take care of your last rights. You know what I was thinking, dude? I wanted to ask you about
She's
this.
hot and passionate, huh?
Yeah, all those
Now
things.
you love that.
Absolutely.
You're like a little spark plug.
Yeah.
Shiny, dude.
I'm a big fan.
Shiny chick, dude.
Big fan.
That's Canada. The women have great skin. They have great skin.
You know what I was thinking, and I wanted to ask her, why don't, we have people who don't want to die dying all the time of fentanyl overdose. Why can't they just throw a little fentanyl on these guys?
Johnny,
and they just
that's a
drift
great
off to
answer.
sleep?
Just go hard in the paint, dude.
Yeah.
Just
Because
smoke all
there
of
are
it.
people all the time who don't want to die, who are dying just drifting off on fentanyl daily.
Yeah, if you went on if you told me, Sam, you got only X number of months to live, one, I would go on a vigilante hunt, taking out all the best scumbags.
Is it coke or opiates? What do you go out on?
Oh, I'm gonna go hard on
Uppers or
speed,
downers?
speed, and just never sleep again. Wrap it up. Totally relapse on drugs. Totally relapse on porn.
Would you really? Not truly though.
What if I?
Would you want to go out not sober?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not? I mean, like, if I
'cause your
know the
family and
end is
stuff's around.
end, the end is end.
You
the
want your
end
family to see you like
Well,
that?
okay, let's say I'm not near my family. I just moved to Costa Rica.
I know I'm taking a joke literally, but I'm just curious. Like
if you had a terminal illness, I would literally go get a loan and go to Vegas. Like if I know I got like 2-3 weeks.
you're not gonna be with your family.
They can come too. They can come party too. I got a loan
come hang out with me.
Yeah, I got a loan out.
I only got 2 months.
I would do that first, then go be with my family for the very end, probably. God, it's horrible to think about, but yeah.
No, just go up, be like, hey, dude, I'm going to go do some crazy stuff right now. Probably take out a couple bad guys, then go to Vegas, get really high, and then I'm coming with more together.
You will know me by the trail of dead pedophiles.
Yeah,
on the way home.
100%. 100%. That would be